Okay, you can begin now.
Okay. So I was trying to say that when we let us look at let us look at Mary in the light of this passage in Numbers, the book of Numbers that we have just read. So it means, what it means is that if a young Jewish woman, in this case Mary, takes a vow to deny herself, and her legal husband, in this case Joseph, hears about the vow and says nothing, that means approves of it, then the vow stands and she is bound by the Torah and by the Bible, the Old Testament, to keep to it. In other words, the basis for Joseph and Mary practicing sexual abstinence within marriage is in itself in the Old Testament, in the book of Numbers that we have seen. Yes, I know some people quote Matthew chapter 1, verse 25, which says, Joseph took his wife, but knew her not until she gave birth to a son. Some people usually interpret this passage to mean that Joseph had sexual relationship with her, with Mary, after the birth of Jesus. But I want us to pay attention to something. This is not actually the case. The word until in Greek is called heos. Simply describes a certain period of time and does not imply anything about what happens afterwards. To buttress this point, let's look at some other passages, even in the same Matthew's gospel, where the same word until is used, and which clearly does not imply a change afterwards. Now, let's look at, for instance, in Matthew chapter 22, verse 44. Can somebody read it for us? Matthew 22, 44. Another person, please read for us, open for us 2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 23. But first of all, Matthew 22, 44. Are we together?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Father.
Matthew 22, 44.
The
Yes,
Lord
this
said,
is African.
sorry, carry on.
Yes, this is African Bible.
Okay.
Yes. So Matthew 22, verse 44 says, the Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool.
Now listen to this. He said, the Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I put your enemies under your feet. Now, does it mean that when I put your enemy under your feet, then you stop sitting at my right hand? And I want to follow the logic. Because if they're saying that it's until means then end, it means then that the Lord is saying, sit at my right hand until I put your enemy under your feet. Then when I finish putting your enemy under your feet, then you stop sitting at my right hand. No, that's not what it means. But this until, he just tried to tell you that I'm going to accomplish this. Now, see the same Matthew chapter 28, verse 20. This one we know by heart. But you can just read it. 28:20. Somebody who knows it by heart can quote it. The popular one.
Teaching them to observe all that I have ever commanded you. And behold, I am with you always, even to the consummation of the age.
Okay, this is even to, but I want another version that we use until. Thomism, are you there?
Yes, Father.
Okay.
The RSV.
And
okay, Sister Lillian.
And teach them to fulfill all that I have commanded you. I am with you always until the end of this world.
Okay, now listen to this. I'm with you always until the end of this world. Does it mean that when the world comes to an end, he will stop being with us? No, that's not what it means. But he's just trying to tell you that no matter what happens, I am with you. Now, an interesting one is the Old Testament. Let's go back to the Old Testament. 2 Samuel 6:23. Anybody there? 2 Samuel 6:23 about Michal.
Okay, 6:23.
Okay.
And Michal, Saul's daughter, had no child to the day she died.
Now he uses another word. I want until. But anyway, don't
Okay.
worry. It's many translations will also use on because the same word there. Heos. He said until the day of her death. It does not mean that the day of her death, then she's already giving birth. But just trying to tell you something that is perpetual, something that is continuous. Now, obviously, what I'm trying to say is that the use of until here does not, like in the case of Michal, does not imply that Michal started giving birth after she died. So the Bible, when the Bible uses the word until with reference to Joseph's abstinence, it does not imply anything about what happened after Jesus was born. Matthew just used the word until to show that there is no way Jesus was Joseph's son. So what Matthew was, why he was using that word until, was trying to tell us that don't even look at Joseph as if Joseph was the child. No. So that Joseph did not come close to Mary until Jesus was born. So the focus was on Jesus, because Joseph did not have relations with Mary at any time, even during the pregnancy. So it also means something very important, and that is, unlike an ordinary Jewish couple, Joseph and Mary did not consummate their marriage on their wedding night. In ancient Judaism, the climax, that means the highest point of wedding celebration, was the consummation of the marriage on the wedding night in the bridal chamber. If we read Matthew chapter 9, verse 15, or Matthew chapter 25, verse 1 to 13, you will see references to this. Yet, the Bible is saying clearly that although Joseph took Mary to be his wife, they did not consummate their marriage, either on their wedding night nor during the pregnancy. After all, nothing in the virginal conception of Jesus would prohibit them from having ordinary marital relations. The only plausible explanation of this abstinence of Joseph and Mary on their wedding night is that Mary had taken this Numbers 30 vow of abstinence, so in accordance with what the Torah, what the Old Testament says, and Joseph himself had accepted it. Now, he says, "Since I do not know man," and then we have read about the self-denial, afflicting oneself, and then Joseph's willingness to abstain from ordinary sexual relationship with Mary. All this point to the fact that Mary had some kind of vow or promise of abstinence, which Joseph was willing to honor from the very beginning of their marriage. Remember also the old Ark of the Covenant, which we have already said some weeks ago, was so holy that even a Levite could not touch it and live. We saw that in 2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 6. Then, how much more the new ark? If the earthly ark of the covenant was so holy and powerful that even the Levite could not enter, could not touch, what of the new ark? And if the earthly temple in Jerusalem was so holy that even the priests were required to refrain from sexual relations before entering it, we see this in Exodus chapter 19, verse 5, and also in 1 Samuel chapter 21, verse 4. The priests were required, even though they were married, they were required to abstain from sexual relationship for long before it's their turn to enter and have service in the temple. Then how much more Mary's body, the new dwelling place of God? What one may at this point ask is, what about the brothers of Jesus? I know this question will be itching in your mind now. If Mary, if we are talking about the perpetual virginity, how about the brothers of Jesus? Don't the Bible explicitly say that Mary had other children? Let us now address this issue. Remember, that's why I said last week, instead of just answering the question, let us address this issue within the context of Mary's perpetual virginity. Now, let's talk about the brothers of Jesus, brothers and sisters of Jesus. As we all know, the New Testament contains several passages where the phrase brothers and sisters of Jesus were mentioned. At the first glance, these passages seem to be the strongest argument against Mary's perpetual virginity. They are certainly the most popular reason why many believe that Mary had other children besides Jesus. And once again, however, we need to examine the evidence in its Jewish, ancient Jewish context, that means Old Testament. When we do so, some of the very passages that mention Jesus' brother actually present even important evidence that Mary did not have other children. Now, let us take them one after the other. The first and the most important reason for concluding that the so-called brothers of Jesus are not children of Mary is also the most often overlooked. And this is the Gospels themselves. They say very clearly that the so-called brothers of Jesus are in fact the children of another woman named Mary. Mary was actually a very common name those days. In order to see this clearly, we all need to do all we need to do is to compare the identities of the brothers of Jesus in the account of the ministry of Jesus in Nazareth, in the within the account of the people present at his crucifixion and burial. Then it begins to become clearer to us who these persons or who this Mary is. For the sake of convenience, instead of going searching through the whole Bible, let us narrow it down to maybe a little bit in Mark, a little bit in Matthew, and then a little bit in John. Can somebody please open for us? By the way, if you paid attention at Mass today, you know that was actually the gospel reading today at Mass. Now, so somebody get for us Mark chapter 6. Mark chapter 6 from verse 1 to 3. And maybe another person, Mark chapter 15 from 37. Are we together? Mark 6 and Mark 15.
Mark 6,
1 to 3.
1 to 3. Leaving that district, he went to his hometown, and his disciples accompanied him. With the coming of the Sabbath, he began teaching in the synagogue, and most of them were astonished when they heard him. They said, "Where did the man get all this? What is this wisdom that has been granted him, and these miracles that are worked through him? This is the carpenter. Surely the son of Mary, the brother of James and Joseph, and Jude and Simon.
Okay, now,
His sisters too. Are
okay,
they
yeah,
not here with us?
okay,
Okay.
yeah, okay.
Mm.
Now, he mentioned some names. Now I say, is this not the brother? Is it not? Is there the brother not here? Is not the brother of James and Joseph? Somebody's making noise from. There's a background noise somewhere. Please mute yourself. Mute yourself, please. Okay, good. He said, is it not the brother of James and Joseph, and then Simon and Jude and so on? Now, let us bear this in mind. Let us also let us now read Mark 15 from 37. The same Gospel of Mark 15, 37, and then 40, 41.
Then Jesus uttered a loud cry and gave up his spirit. And immediately the curtain which enclosed the temple sanctuary was torn in two from top to bottom. And when the centurion, who was standing in front of him, saw how Jesus died, he said, "Truly, this man is the Son of God." Should I continue?
What verse are you?
40. I will start 40 now.
Okay, yes, start 40.
There were also some women watching from a distance. Among them were Mary Magdalene,
Please,
Mary.
excuse me. Please pay attention to the women and what the Bible says about them. Remember, the passage we just read, it says that the people are talking about the brothers of Jesus and mentioned Mary and Joseph and some others. Now, pay attention to what now the Bible is telling us about those who were present when Jesus was crucified. Please start again from 40.
Okay. There were also some women watching from a distance. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, the younger and of Joseph, and Salome.
Okay, you see now, the same people now mentioned is the Bible is also telling us that there is a mother. They say there are three people were apart from those who were very close to the cross. That's those who are standing from a distance. So Mary Magdalene, that's one, and then another Mary, the mother of the James and Joseph.
James the younger.
Now you see the same people mentioned as brothers of Jesus is mentioned again as sons of Mary. So on the one hand, the Gospel of Mark chapter 6 verse 3 identifies these James and Joseph as the two brothers of Jesus. By the way, in fact, before I go ahead, let me also say that because we are reading this Bible in English, it has advantage, but also has disadvantage. Let me tell you the word that the translators are struggling to translate, which we shall see also in the Old Testament. It is the word adelphoi. Adelphoi is the word that is being translated here. Well, I will tell you later what that word means, because we shall see some other passages that contains the same thing. So in English now, it could be translated as brother or brothers, but it can also be translated as other things, what I will tell you later. So now at first they say these are the brothers of Jesus, and then later on at the foot of the cross we see this Mary again that identified as the mother of the same people, the same names mentioned. So on the one hand, James, Joseph were the brothers of Jesus. On the other hand, it's very important, the Gospel of Mark also provides this solid evidence that the same two men, James and Joseph, were actually the sons of a different woman named Mary. This other Mary is mentioned actually 3 times in the account of Jesus crucifixion, death, and resurrection. At the crucifixion, she is called Mary, the mother of James the Younger and Joseph. At the burial, she is called, in fact, read verse 47.
Sorry. Now,
Okay.
Mary of Magdala and Mary, the mother of Joseph, took note of where he was laid.
Okay, you see. So she now is again called Mary, the mother of Joseph. Now, okay, read chapter 16, just the next chapter. Chapter 16, verse 1.
When the Sabbath was over, Mary of Magdala, Mary, the mother of James and Salome.
Now, Mary, the mother of James and Salome, you see, the people that were mentioned earlier in chapter 6 as the brothers and sisters of Jesus they are now mentioning their mother. So, who is this woman? That will be our next question. Obviously, it is not the mother of Jesus, because anytime in the Gospel of Mark is talking about the Blessed Virgin Mary, he refers to her as the mother of Jesus, not just Mary, the mother of Jesus. As we see, for instance, in Mark chapter 3, verse 31 and 32, the mother of Jesus. So the mother of James and Joseph is a different Mary. And therefore, James and Joseph are not the sons of Virgin Mary. In fact, the same thing happens in Matthew's gospel. Let us read Matthew chapter 13, verse 55. And then the same Matthew 27. But first of all, chapter 13.
Verse what?
13:55.
Okay. Is he not the carpenter's son? Is not Mary his mother? And are not James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas his brothers?
Exactly. The same thing we saw in Matthew. But now, in Matthew, instead of Joseph, he says Joseph. Now, okay. Now, keep that in mind again. And let us fast forward to at the crucifixion again in chapter 27.
Same Matthew.
Same Matthew, yes.
27 what?
55 to 56.
Among them. Okay.
Yes, go ahead. 56.
56?
Yes.
Okay. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and the wife of Zebedee.
Good. See again, Mary, the mother of Joseph and James and Joseph. Then read again 59 to 61.
So Joseph.
But read only 61 for the sake of time.
61, okay.
Yes.
Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were sitting there facing the tomb.
In fact, Matthew now calls it the other Mary because he has already referred to her before. The other Mary. The same thing, if we look, let's just not read it again. In Luke 24, verse 10, talks about the Mary, the mother of James. In fact, it is the same James who later became the leader of the church in Jerusalem, who is also known in Galatians chapter 1. Brother. Yes, Galatians chapter 1, verse 19, as the Lord's brother. The Lord's brother. This leads us to another important question. If James and Joseph are children of another Mary, then why are they called Jesus' brother? This question is quite simple, or the answer is quite simple. Sorry. In an ancient Jewish context, the Greek word brothers, I said before, is adelphoi, could be used as a synonym for close relatives like cousins, brothers belonging to the same group, and so on and so forth. Now, let us see if, now this is where translations will play a very nice role. Let us see. Now, I tell you, the word, any word you hear now, what they are trying to translate is the word adelphoi. In Hebrew, it's called achim. Achim. This word is what they are struggling now to translate in English. Now, what you are going to ask yourself, the same translators in the Old Testament, maybe they call it something else. Maybe they try to explain what it is. But in the New Testament, they stick to the word brother, just to give the impression that Mary had other sons. But okay, let us read Genesis chapter 13, verse 8, for instance. The dialogue between Abraham and Lot. We know that Lot was not Abraham's brother, but was his actually his nephew. Abraham was the uncle of Lot. Now read Genesis chapter 13, verse 8. For the sake of time, another person please open to Genesis 31, while another person opens to 1 Chronicles 23. So let's start with Genesis 13. Are we together? Genesis 13. Genesis is the first book of the Bible.
13 what?
13:8.
Abraham said to Lot, let there be a dispute between you and me, nor between my herdsmen and yours, since we are brothers.
Exactly, since we are brothers. Lot was not, what translation is that? Are you reading?
It's a new Community Bible, Catholic edition.
Okay. Since we are, but Lot was not the brother of Abraham. Lot was actually his nephew. Since we are brothers, Abraham told Lot. And that's the word adelphoi. And that's the same word used in the New Testament when they talk about the brothers of Jesus. Now Abraham is telling Lot, we are brothers, but it was not from the same mother. Abraham was actually his uncle. Now let us move again to the same Genesis chapter 31 from 36.
31:36. Then Jacob lost his temper and took Laban to task. And Jacob said to Laban, what is my offense? What is my crime for you to have hounded me like this? You have gone through all my belongings. Have you found anything belonging to your household? Produce it here in the presence of my brothers and yours, and let them decide between the two of us.
Good. Presenting in the presence of my brothers. But we know that Jacob had no brother there. His brother was actually Esau, which he left and ran away to his uncle. Laban was his uncle. And they present in the presence of my brothers. So he's talking about, and that's the same word, adelphoi. He's not the brother of the same mother, but like my relatives, my cousins. Now, the last now, 1 Chronicles 23 from 21. If it's
23, 21. Okay, go ahead, please. Go ahead. Okay. Sons of Merari, Mali and Mushi. Sons of Mali, Eleazar and Kish. Eleazar died without sons, but he did have daughters, whom their cousins, the sons of Kish, married. Sons of Mushi.
That's okay. That's okay. He has daughters which their cousins married. But the same word, adelphoi. Sister, what does your own translation say? Instead of cousin, does it say brother? The same Community Bible. Let me hear. Sister?
My own is Community.
Yeah, what did he say? What does he say?
From 30 what, please?
36. Sorry, from 21.
Okay, from 21, say, I think, please, in 1 Chronicles.
23, 21 to 22.
Okay, sorry. It says, sons of Merari, Mehi and Mush, sons of Meli, Eleazar and Kish. Eleazar died, leaving no sons, but only daughters. Their cousins, the sons of Kish, married.
Okay. Is this the same word, cousin? But like
Yeah.
I'm just trying to say that it's the same word in Genesis between Abraham and Lot, the same word Jacob and Laban, the same word now between sons of Kish and the daughters of Eliezer, the same word are the four. But now it's the same word also in the New Testament. In Hebrew, it's called Achim. In Greek, it's called Adelphoi. It's called when it's mentioned, it can be brothers of the same mother, it can be cousins, it can be relatives, it can be people from the same group that identify themselves. So it's like we have even in Africa, we'll say this is my brother, may not actually mean that it is from your mother's womb. So notice here that it is the context, actually. It's only the context that gives us the clue to when the word brother means relative or cousin. For instance, like I said, Jacob was using the word Achim or Adelphoi to refer to his cousins, the sons of his uncle Laban. Now, likewise, Achim or Adelphoi of the daughters of Eliezer were the first cousins, the sons of their uncle Kish. So, Achim in Hebrew or Adelphoi in Greek could mean brother, cousin, relatives. So when it comes to the brothers of Jesus in the gospel, we have to determine the meaning of the word in context. If all we had were just the reference to Jesus's brother during his ministry in Nazareth, it would be reasonable to assume they were his blood brothers. However, if later in the same gospel, two of these brothers, James and Joseph, were very clearly identified as the children of another woman named Mary, then the obvious explanation is that the word brothers in this context is being used to refer to Jesus's relatives. In fact, the Gospel of John also provides an important clue to the identity of the other Mary, who is presented in the crucifixion. Can somebody read for us? I know there's no more time, but I just want to finish this today so that we don't do it again next time. John chapter 19. John chapter 19, verse 25 to 27.
John 19, 25 to 27. Near the cross of Jesus stood his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary of Magdala. Seeing his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing near her, Jesus said to his mother, "Woman, this is your son." Then to the disciple he said, "This is your mother." And from that hour, the disciple took her into his home.
Okay, let us make these 3 points, then we'll close. The time is fast, it's already long gone. Now, first, notice that John identifies the second woman at the cross as his mother's sister, Mary. His mother's sister. That's another added information. Although it's easy to miss this point, this verse provides important support for the word sister. In fact, the same word we talk about Adelphos, singular, Adelphoi, plural. Now it said Adelphe, which is sister, a feminine version of it. But being used to refer to someone other than blood sister, because there's no way that the parents of Mary will give birth to another girl and name her Mary again. It means probably they were cousins, but here she's called her mother's sister. His mother's sister, Jesus's mother's sister. It seems, therefore, the text makes perfect sense if John is using the word sister to refer to a close relative of Mary, her mother, his mother. That means the person standing close to Mary at the cross that we saw in Matthew and in Mark is actually Mary's sister, or maybe probably her cousin, called Mary too. And then he said it's the wife of Clopas, That's another thing we have to take note of, because it's very important. When John refers to this woman as Mary, the wife of Cleopas, he gives us an important clue to the identity of the other woman, referred to by Matthew and Mark. If John is referring to the same woman, the same Mary that Matthew and Mark says we are present at the crucifixion and burial of Jesus, Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, then we have further evidence that James and Joseph are not the sons of Jesus's mother, nor are they the sons of Joseph. Instead, they could be the sons of another man named Cleopas. That means Mary and Joseph were the earthly parents of Jesus. Now, another Mary and Cleopas had other sons called James, Joseph, Salome, and Judas, the other four that were mentioned, which were also cousins of Jesus. And thirdly, and final, before we close, Jesus gives his mother, Mary, to the beloved disciple, John. And this point cannot be stressed enough. If Mary would have had other children at the time of the crucifixion, it would have been unheard of for Jesus to give his mother to one of his disciples. In fact, in ancient Jewish context, to fail to care for one's aging parents was a grave sin.
So when he was saying it today, he said,
Sister, please mute yourself. One that Jesus himself described as a capital offense in Mark chapter 7, 9 to 13. Jesus described that not caring for one's parents is a grave offense. So the most plausible explanation for why Jesus takes such a pain in the midst of dying to make sure his mother is cared for by another person is that Mary had no other children. Jesus was her only son. Once again, we could stop here, but if only we had the evidence of the New Testament, would have just surveyed it, and maybe that would have been enough. But we also have in church history, and church history I'm talking about, not church history of today. I'm talking about church history immediately after Jesus died. We have a recorded evidence that these persons called James and Joseph and Simon, they were cousins of Jesus. In fact, as they say, after James died, because James was the first bishop of Jerusalem, the cousin of Jesus. After he died, they said the apostles who were still alive and other church members, they came together and elected another of his cousins to replace him, called Simon, to replace and he was specifically called the son of Cleopas. He was anointed bishop, but we don't have time now to go into that. I know that we have wasted a lot of time today, but I didn't want to say this, have this topic 2 times. That's why I compressed everything today. So let us stop now, and then maybe in our discussion we can talk about other. We can stress more on it. So God bless you. Sorry that it has taken a long time, but I think we needed to make this point today because this is always a point where people because I know today the virginity of Mary, or the perpetual virginity of Mary, is questioned, especially by non-Catholics, even by some Catholics too. So it's very important that we make this point and make it very, very clearly, especially from the point of view of the Bible, so that if somebody, because if you're talking about it now, explaining, they tell you, oh, you are explaining doctrine, but when you go to the Bible, meet the person where he thinks he believes and show him point by point that he's mistaken, especially when you know when you have the knowledge of some words and how they are used in the Bible, then you are at advantage. You know your faith and you can defend it anywhere. So thank you and God bless you.